world that nature has to offer in one lifetime. What a dream! To travel freely into the home of the wild ones, to live with them, to become so accepted by them that they hardly notice that you're there. That is not only my dream, that's my goal. I'm wildlife photographer Bill Porter, and I'll take you there.
I walked on the mountain and down by the sea. There I saw the man who shared this world with me. We shared this world with wild ones, that's the way it's meant to be. We're also meant to save them, that's the power in you and me. I wandered down the valley, crossed to the other shore. There's wildlife all around us, birds and bees and so much more. We're always going to take some, that's the way it's meant to be. We're also meant to save them, that's the power in you and me. Well, I woke up to the sunrise, stood there at sunset too. Still I saw the wild ones, wish you had been there too. For with one touch of nature, the whole world had become kin. This message all around us, that's the way it's always been.
Wildlife Unlimited Foundation, thanking you for doing your part to keep our wildlife unlimited. I'm wildlife photographer Bill Porter, and I'll take you there. Sometimes they're cute. Sometimes they're beautiful. Other times they're simply amazing. But it's always exciting in the wonderful world of the wild ones.
The Lake Superior shoreline is one of the most beautiful sites in North America, with both rock formations and historical sites, like this old lighthouse that enhances the area. Lake Superior has taken many ships and their crews over the years. Big storms come up very quickly and produce many problems. The Apostle Islands National Park, off the tip of Wisconsin in Lake Superior, also has historical sites underwater. This is all that is left of a shipwreck recently discovered off the Apostle Islands. The Apostle Islands give a unique beauty and enhancement to these waters. These islands and the shoreline have been the nesting site for bald eagles for many years, but among the beauty is another kind of tragedy. Since the 1960s, the eaglets have been dying before they can leave the nest. Therefore, the National Forest Service enacted a research project to monitor the reproduction and to find out the cause of these failures. We'll take a look at the eagle, as well as what researchers are finding out about its problems.
On land and underwater, sportsman and photographer Bill Porter with son John and family invite you all to join them at a spot in the country where we hope to see some wildlife still run free. hunting, climbing, fishing, diving, see things that help to set the spirit free. We might take some of the surplus that the good Lord has provided, always mindful of the sportsman's creed. So the wildlife we all love remains unlimited. Oh, Bill and Rose and little John, who's grown to be a man, will show you through a camera's eye wonders of the land. You might camp with them by mountain streams or run barefoot in the sand. But wherever you go, recall the creed, keep the wildlife unlimited.
The Wildlife Unlimited Foundation presents The Bald Eagle. Join photographer Bill Porter on land, underwater, and in the air, with John Porter as field assistant and Dr. Ray Anderson, wildlife professor, UW-Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Several times in the past, birds near the top of the food chain have forewarned us about a very real danger to the human race. The dead robins found on a campus in Michigan. The grebes found in Clear Lake, California. Now the eagles on the Apostles are in real trouble.
To work on these big waters meant big boats, and we would soon join the researchers already at work on the Apostle Islands. Not only for the good of the eagle, but for our own good, we must find out as much as we can. Karen Cozy is a graduate student working under the guidance of Dr. Ray Anderson, wildlife ecologist. Karen spent 2 summers on the Apostle Islands, studying the eagles and their problems. Bill asked Karen just what got her started up here.
Well, I got involved in the master's program last year studying eagles on the Apostle Islands, and I wouldn't trade the place for the world. It's really beautiful. The eagles have had problems with reproduction. The last documented successful reproduction prior to recently was in 1966. And then with the problems with DDT, there was no nesting during the 70s and only pretty sporadic nesting during the 60s. In 1980 and 1982, well, in 1980, the eagles came back to the islands and they made several nesting attempts, but were unsuccessful in fledging young until 1983. Even though they had made many attempts at nesting, so we knew something was wrong.
From Chuck Stencerlaw's studies in the early 1980s, in which he analyzed unhatched eagle eggs from the Apostle Island nests and found they contained high levels of chemical contaminants. Karen spent long hours watching the eagles and recording their behavior. Eagles get contaminants from their food, but which foods contain the contaminants? She recorded the location of nest sites. It was important to know if any of the eaglets survived into the fledgling stage. She also needed to determine where the eagles were feeding and what they were eating. These and many other questions faced Karen as the summer began. First, the nest sites were located early in the spring. In 1960, an Audubon survey by Alexander Front showed 20 nest sites in the Apostle Islands and 3 on the mainland shore. Problems discovered at that time included several nest sites without eggs, and the number of nesting eagles were low. This was the area where the pesticide DDT was shown to cause nest failures. DDT caused thin eggshells, which broke quite often during incubation. Breeder eagles kept disappearing until 1970, when another survey showed no breeder eagles on the islands and very few on the mainland shore. The mainland population began to recover and spread out in all directions. One eaglet, raised in Vilas County, Wisconsin, in 1973, began breeding on the shores of Lake Superior in 1978, but still no breeding attempts were being made on the islands. However, the young produced in the late 70s and the early 80s populated the island area. In 1980, the first breeding attempt was made on Madeline Island, but only a single eaglet reached the fledgling stage. Eagles nest on the highest point available. Among the islands, this means the tallest pines. Possibly, this is because of the view. Here is a view from a nest on Michigan Island, the eagle's point of view. Eggs are laid in early April. Notice the eagle, with her very large talons and large body weight, is careful with her egg, closing her talons as she moves carefully around the nest, then gently turning the egg before getting comfortable. Gently, she pulls loose material around her to keep in the body heat. The young usually hatch sometime in May, and the full-time job of feeding the eaglets begins for the parents. Some nests have only one young, while others have had as many as 3. The food supply must be very good for a parent to raise even 2 young. Karen made notations and kept track of the daily patterns of the eagle's routine. The eagle's food habits vary in different parts of its range and with the different seasons of the year. Live and dead fish are the main items during the summer season. But the other live and dead foods may become important during the winter months. Gulls often harass the eagles while they are hunting. They also often eat the same types of food as the eagles and are also sometimes eagle food. A banding team came prepared to visit each nest on the islands. They wanted to record the progress of the nests and to band the eaglets for future identification. The incubation period for eagles is about 35 days, and the eaglets stay in the nest for about 3 months. Fledgling is about 10 to 12 weeks, but the adults still feed the young even after fledgling for a few more weeks. It takes about 2 fish each per day to feed the eaglets. First, they start out with wing exercises, then gradually move out to the branches. They are born with a white downy plumage, which changes in about 4 to 5 weeks to brown feathers. They retain these for the first year. Eagles do not get their distinctive white head and tail until their 3rd year, and still may be streaked with brown. Presumably, they are sexually mature at 4 years of age. The young disperse widely from the nesting area, but usually nest in the same area where they are hatched. It is thought that the adults disperse shorter distances and may go to the same wintering areas each winter. But this is not known for many eagle populations. This question may be answered from radio studies now being done. We will also learn about the eagle's winter food habits in the same studies. Special equipment, spikes, ropes, belts, and a great deal of skill is required to climb to these very high nests. Some are 90 to 100 feet high. Ron Eckstein of the Department of Natural Resources climbed to this nest. Most eagle nests are built below the top of the tree, which provides a canopy for the nest. The nests are made of sticks and branches and are lined with grasses and are used year after year. Each year they are larger. Nests are large enough and strong enough to hold the researcher as he catches the eaglets. The young are lowered to the ground in a container, a canvas bag in this case. Once on the ground, they are banded and measured to determine their sex and age. Chuck Cisular has banded over 2,000 eagles in Wisconsin since 1974. A needle is used to draw a blood sample, which will be analyzed for contaminants. Mosquitoes, black flies, and bad weather often make the wildlife researcher's job unpleasant. Photos are taken to establish a permanent record. The talons of eaglets are already large and needle sharp. Then the equipment must be assembled and brought back to the boat. One of the two eaglets was dead in this nest. It and food remains were collected for contamination analysis. Karen continued to monitor the surviving eaglet for the remainder of the summer. North Twin and Michigan Island each had one dead eaglet, while one dead adult eagle was found near the nest on North Twin. Outer Island and Michigan Island each produced one eaglet to the fledgling stage. It is important to note that the reproduction in most of North America is very good now, and that the bald eagle is spreading back to much of its original range. Many early mornings were spent gathering fish samples. These were sent in for analysis, and the results showed a low level of contaminants in the fish. However, the gull remains found in the nest, as well as the samples of live gulls, showed extremely high levels of the contaminants. Also, some of the eaglets taken from the nest showed very high contaminants. Some of the fish were also used for a trapping technique. An attempt was made to capture an adult eagle for radio tagging to learn their wintering areas and their winter food habits. This attempt to catch a fish is shown here in slow motion, so you can clearly see that the eagle catches its prey with its talons, not its beak. The catch attempt was made by luring the eagle to a fish with a snare attached. It almost worked, but the eagle slipped its leg out of the snare, leaving the researchers wondering why and leaving the questions of wintering habits still unanswered. Eaglettes spend most of their time eating and exercising and testing their wings. Soon it will be their turn to hunt these waters for food. They will remain in the dark stage for 3 years, with their distinctive white head and tail starting in the third. And many still have a single black feather in their tail during the 4th year.
The conclusion of this study, like so many other studies, asks more questions. There's more that we need to know. For example, the gulls are known to be doing very well and have many nest sites around Lake Superior. It is not known where they get their contaminants or where they winter. It is known that the productivity of the herring gulls is very high. Apparently, the contaminants passed on to the eagles are tolerated by the gulls, as tests show very high levels of these contaminants in the eggs of the gulls. Further studies must be done to track down the remaining answers if we expect the bald eagle to be free and soar over North America forever. We can no longer expect these problems to simply go away. We are the cause. We introduce these foreign substances into their world. Now we must find out how to rid their world of these contaminants. This is the only way to keep the wildlife unlimited. For more about the eagles, I suggest these books from your library.
That which affects the eagle affects us. They are warning us of potential danger. We must heed this warning.
I'm photographer Bill Porter, asking you to help me keep the wildlife unlimited.
For a sportsman's more than just a hunter or a fisherman. There's things to see to all the mind of many a mortal man. From the way the wild protect their young to canyons carved in sand. Oh, don't take them all as you recall. We're for wildlife unlimited. Yes, Bill and Rose and little John, who's grown to be a man.